Welcome back. It is week 1. We made it. Give yourself a pat on the back. You made it through the summer. You made it through all your drafts. Now is the time to dominate. This video every single week will go out. I'm a little late this week, but pumped to be back talking starts and sits with all of you beautiful people entering this new season, man. I'm pumped. What?
Why are you shaking your head? You're welcome.
Let's keep the main thing this week, right? Let's not overthink things. I think that's the main thing in week 1. Let's embrace the unknown as well. There's going to be so many player performances that are seemingly random. How could we forget the Christian Kirk 0-for-0 game last year? Everybody was freaking out, and he came back, and he was just fine. Absolutely fine. Wide receiver 2 for the rest of the season. Look, there's going to be some performances this weekend that don't make any sense. There's going to be some performances this weekend that might confirm some of your biases, some of your player takes. It is always the best to use fantasy points projections in all of your start-sit decisions. This season, I use them in all of mine. Literally, it's not any easier than that. Going down the running back list, if there's a running back that might be like within 1 or 2 tenths of a point with them one another, and you want some more details on who to start and sit, I write a free start-sit article over on FantasyPoints.com. You can check that out every single week. Comes out early Thursday mornings. We go game by game, player by player, walk through the slate, try to be as concise as possible for your guys' time, but also, realizing that, we got money on the line, man. We got games to win. We got leagues to win. It's week 1. I want to start hot. Guys, before we get started, before we get into starts and sits, please subscribe to the channel. We just hit 10K. Let's go. 10K subscribers last week. We are efforting for a big push, so please, seriously, subscribe. If you like this video, please like. And if you disagree with any of my takes, any of my starts and sits, please leave a comment down below. All right, week 1, start sit. Let's talk through some quarterbacks. I think this is a pretty straightforward week in the sense that there's like 6 to 8 obvious starts, so we don't need to spend time talking about those guys. There are 2 quarterbacks that are in pretty rough matchups to start the season that were pretty highly drafted. Round 8, round 9 quarterbacks, round 10, round 11. Brock Purdy gets the Jets week 1. And, this is a really good week for quarterbacks, man. I think I would stream for Purdy in all of my 1 quarterback leagues. Obviously, if you have him in a super flex or a 2 QB league, you are not taking him out of lineups. He is gold in those formats. But Purdy, toes that line, right? He toes the line in 1 quarterback leagues where it's 12 teams, even, especially in 10-team leagues, a little more shallow format. He toes the line. Jets allowed just 193 passing yards per game last year, 3rd fewest. They allowed just four quarterbacks individually to finish top 12 against them in fantasy points on the week that they faced them. One of those weeks was Joe Flacco at the end of last season. Purdy, to me, is just a low-end QB1 at best in this spot. Really need a couple touchdowns. I think that game goes under. Jets, Niners on Monday. One more quarterback, Dak Prescott. He's in a rough spot too against the Browns. Browns are a really good defense last season, obviously generated a ton of pressure. Denzel Ward is back fully healthy too. Stud cornerback. He dealt with a bunch of injuries last year. And even with that, Browns limited opposing quarterbacks to the 3rd fewest fantasy points per dropback last season. Dak has been nothing but a top 10 fantasy quarterback in his career. It's unlikely you have a significantly better option since you probably drafted Dak round 8, round 9, maybe round 10 if he slipped to you for a little bit. It's one of those things where you got to assess your waiver wire, you got to assess your league. If you have a decent backup, I would consider streaming for Dak in this spot. Dallas is implied to score just 19.3 points. That's tied with the Steelers on the week 1 slate for the 5th fewest. One quarterback I really do like out there in a few waiver wires, especially in shallower leagues, Matt Stafford. He was arguably, I shouldn't say the hottest quarterback because I think that might have been Jordan Love. But Matt Stafford was playing at top 3 levels to close out last season, y'all. I mean, undeniable. Over his last 7 games, he averaged nearly 300 yards per game. He had a 17 to 3 touchdown to interception ratio. He kind of looked like the old Stafford that, took the Rams to the Super Bowl in 2021 and won it. Stafford was averaging 21 fantasy points per game in that 7-game stretch. Basically would make him like CJ Stroud, Joe Burrow. I don't think we can expect Stafford to kind of, repeat that same level of efficiency, same level of performance year over year. But man, this is a really good spot. Lions, obviously Lions-Rams should be a shootout game in Detroit. Lions are going to be pushing the scoring pace for sure. And Detroit, they tried to fix their secondary this season, right? They threw some darts at corner. They obviously have really good front seven led by Aiden Hutchinson. But still, this team, the secondary, allowed the 5th most yards per pass attempt last year. Running back this week looks really good, honestly. This is the best week we're going to have for running back in quite some time. Don't get used to it, man. It's going to look pretty brutal in like 3 or 4 weeks when injuries start settling in, roles start settling in. But for right now, it's pretty deep. I think, the top 20 is pretty clear cut this week. Those are just the top 20 guys by ADP. There's extremely unlikely you're taking any of those guys out of your lineup. There are 2 players that stand out to me as kind of like the RB2-ish pile that we're going to be sorting through this season. That's kind of like, the RB21 to RB29 to like RB30, maybe even RB30 this week. Jerome Ford. Look, he got pulled at the goal line last year for Kareem Hunt. His role was good. The production was, it bulked up, right? I mean, he was the RB16 in fantasy points per game, but, by most efficiency metrics, Jerome Ford was not very good last season. This offensive line should be healthier going into this year. They will be healthier. They should be a lot better. Look, Ford has a big chance, though. He's got a huge chance. Nick Chubb is on the PUP list. Obviously, the team brought back Deontay Foreman in kind of like a roster cut move. I think he plays in some short yardage situations and comes in maybe at the goal line. That's like the only question here. The role is going to be really good for Ford in between the 20s. Browns are 2.5-point favorites. Listen, if Dallas is beatable anywhere last year, it was on the ground, right? They have a really good pass rush, really good secondary. They're average on run defense. Not great, not good, not bad either. Jerome Ford should be, locked in 13, 14 carries, 3 or 4 targets. And in today's NFL, that's a really good role. I think Jerome Ford's a very solid RB2 and a great flex play this week. One more running back. You really should not have this guy on any of your teams if you followed Fantasy Points this offseason. If you followed our projections, you followed my analysis and advice. DeAndre Swift. I think he's going to be stuck in some sort of 3-way committee. However, this is the healthiest he's going to be all year. The Bears are in a great spot this week. The markets are very, very bullish on the Bears. They're at home, favored to win, and they have the 7th highest team total for week 1. 7th highest implied team total ahead of the Bengals. Really, really bullish on Caleb Williams. Listen, I just think if we're expecting the Bears to put up this many points, they're at home, they're favored, and DeAndre Swift is not in your lineup and you drafted him in the 7th round, I'm not really sure what to tell you. This is probably one of the best spots he's going to have all season. Again, I think it's going to be a little bit more of a committee, but Swift will be fully healthy, ready to go in this spot. All right, 2 sits real quick. Again, Commanders' backfield is just, it's going to be a nightmare this season, I think. As long as Brian Robinson and Austin Ekeler are healthy, I think this duo is just going to totally cannibalize each other. I think that this is just a mediocre projected offense, and Jaden Daniels is going to steal some goal line touchdowns for sure. This preseason, we got a first glimpse of what this backfield is going to look like, right? Daniels played just 29 snaps. It's basically like maybe a half's worth of snaps, a little fewer than a half's worth of snaps. But regardless, what we have to work with on those 29 snaps, B-Rob played 16. Austin Ekeler played 13. They split the pass down work. Ekeler had a few more routes. Listen, I think, look, if you absolutely punted your RB2 spot and you just need to throw in Robinson or Ekeler and expect 8 points this season, I think you're going to be fine. However, I'm looking for a little more upside. I'm looking for better bench stashes. I think Commanders are kind of like those roster clogger backs. Like I said, unless it's one of those team builds where you've got just like an ace RB1 like McCaffrey, like Jonathan Taylor, like Bijan, like Breece Hall, and you kind of just pair them with one of these punting Commanders running backs, they're fine. But I'm not excited about starting any of them. And, this week on the road against the Bucs, road dog, Daniel's making his first start. I'm looking elsewhere at my RB2, RB3, and flex spots. Looking back at some receivers this week, I think this week is it's one of those weeks at receiver where you just look down the board and you're like, damn, the NFL is just loaded right now. There are legitimately 40 good plays this week at receiver. We'll try to sort through some of the best, and like I said, that wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 pile this week. This is a really good opening spot for Chris Godwin. This is a player that, as you guys know, I have been extremely high on this offseason. He's now 2 years removed from that catastrophic knee injury from 2022. He was not himself last year, especially to start the season. Kind of coming back, working in a different role in this offense last season, played more on the outside. That's all changing this year. He's moving back on the inside. All the Bucs coaches have said this all season long. He'll be back in his natural position in the slot, and that's good for Godwin. Last year, he was more efficient by yards per route run, and he posted a significantly better average separation score. That is ass in the slot. Yeah, that's right. He posted a better separation score in the slot last season as opposed to out wide. Listen, Commanders are starting a second-round rookie. No offense at all to this young man, but Chris Godwin is going to shred in this matchup. Washington was, secondary we were picking against all season last year. Godwin is in my lineups, especially in PPR leagues, as my wide receiver 2 every single where I drafted him. I'm not overthinking this one. Godwin's a smash play, along with Mike Evans. All right, one last receiver I want to talk through, and we have to do it. We got to talk through Jameson Williams. We have to. I'm sorry. This guy has been like, obviously he's been like a little bit of like a Rorschach's test for fantasy football, right? Like, you get the ink blot. What do you see with Jameson Williams? I look at it both ways. Look, guys, I'm a Gemini, right? Like I'm the devil's advocate. I really do see the talent level with Jamo. Loved him coming out of Alabama. I really just question the role. I think the role in this offense is just not going to be one that we're looking to consistently for fantasy points. Last season, we already saw Williams in a full-time role in the playoffs. In Detroit's 3 games, he ran a route on 73% of the team's pass plays. That was way up. He was at 50% during the regular season, basically just a part-time player. And guess what? In those 3 playoff contests, Williams was 5th on the team in targets, 8% share. 3 games, he caught 6 passes for 79 yards and 1 touchdown. By comparison, target earners Amon-Ra St. Brown and Sam Laporta combined for 53% of the targets in those 3 games when Williams kind of got the big boost in route share. Obviously, Josh Reynolds is gone. He's leaving behind a 13% target share, kind of a small-ish role that'll just kind of be divvied up between all of these guys, right? St. Brown, Laporta, Gibbs, and Williams. I think we can project for Williams for no more than like 12 to 13%. Even in a great game environment like this, I get maybe the appeal of just like swinging for the fences with JMO this week. I really want to see it first. I really want to, like I said, we saw him in the full-time role last postseason. Targets didn't come. This team is built around St. Brown and Laporta. It'd be interesting to see what kind of role and how many targets Williams can carve out, but I want to see it first. All right, finally, let's talk through tight ends. This week, there's just a clear top 10. We do not need to talk about any of the guys in the top 10 in our projections. However, it falls off a freaking cliff after 11. I genuinely, from tight end 11 to like 16 this week, 17, you could sell me on the order any which way, and I'd be like, yeah, sure, I could see it. Whatever. I think we always forget at tight end, we are streaming for touchdowns. That is the name of the game, right? At any other position in fantasy football, quarterback, running back, receiver, touchdowns drive scoring. At tight end, it's kind of the opposite, and it's because tight end touchdowns are really hard to come by. When you get a guy like Travis Kelce, who's not only just earning, he's the greatest, obviously the greatest to ever do it, but he's not only just earning enough targets to catch 100 balls every year from Patrick Mahomes, but he's also getting legitimate end zone usage. that is a kind of a dime a dozen for for today's NFL and tight end usage. If you're chasing touchdowns and you like living on the edge, right? We literally just named a stat ass here at FantasyPoints.com. If you're watching this video, you probably like living on the edge a little bit. YOLO streamer this week is Taysom Hill. And every single week it's going to be Taysom Hill. I buy that they want to get him more involved in the offense. He's 35 years old. It's the most unique role in football right now. He's going to play running back more often than he's going to play tight end. However, last year when Taysom Hill played at least 25 total snaps in a game, he did it 11 times, he averaged 12.3 PPR points per game. That would have made him the tight end 8. The tight end 8, guys, in fantasy football over Cole Kmet. It's all fueled by the goal line roll. Alvin Kamara has 28 carries inside the 10 over the last 2 seasons. Hill has 26. Hill has more touchdowns on those carries. He has 7. Kamara has 5. Look, I think Juwan Johnson coming back from the foot injury, he's going to cut into Hill's route share at tight end. I don't think that matters at all. We're playing for touchdowns here. Saints are favored in this game against the Panthers. I expect Hill to get at least one goal line carry if they get there. And if you punted tight end, man, I know it feels gross. It's going to feel so gross putting this man in a lineup in week 1. I can't. Honestly, I got to go shower after I finish up this video just talking about Taysom Hill. But I legitimately think he's in play. I think he's a legitimately sharp streamer, and he's like 40% rostered on Yahoo. Look, this season I think you could do worse than like pairing Taysom Hill with someone like Tyler Conklin or Brock Bowers or TJ Hawkinson. Throw him on your IR spot and just kind of try to cyborg a back end tight end 1. Try to cyborg like the tight end 8 in fantasy points per game. If you just completely punted and you didn't draft any of the mid-round guys, Taysom is in play in leagues where you can start at least one tight end. And so is Tyler Conklin. Conklin is our tight end 11 in projections this week. He's been like top 10 in receptions, top 10 in targets, top 15 in yards over the last 2 seasons. You just need some touchdowns. Fingers crossed, Aaron Rodgers provides said touchdowns. Guys, thanks so much for hanging out. Thanks so much for listening. I hope that this video helped you out a little bit. I hope you crush in all of your leagues this week. As always, we'll see you guys at the top of the leaderboards.